Hi, my name is Emily, and I'm an Adult Services Librarian here at the Kent Free Library. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make loom woven coasters, or mug rugs. You're going to need the following supplies: a piece of cardboard, 3 colors of yarn. 2 colors should be 3 yards, and your black yarn should be 8 yards long. A tapestry needle, scissors, a fork, a pencil, and a roll of Scotch tape. Once you've gathered all your supplies, you're ready to get started. You need to cut your cardboard loom so that it's 5 inches wide and 10 inches long. Grab your pencil. I'm going to be using a marker because it shows up better on camera. To start, you're going to trace the outline of your coaster onto your cardboard loom. If you want, you can trace one of your favorite coasters to get an idea of what shape and size it should be. Next, grab your ruler and mark out where the notches in your loom need to go. Create an even number of notches. Somewhere between 14 and 18 notches works well with this size cardboard loom. I'm going to make 16 notches along each end of the loom. Make sure that they are evenly spaced and that they line up with the notches across from them. Once you've marked where your notches should go, grab your scissors and cut the notches into the loom. Each notch should be about 1/4 inch deep. Once your notches are cut, you're ready to string your loom. Grab your black yarn. This yarn should be about 8 meters long to cover our 5x10 loom. Start on the back of the loom and thread the first notch. Then grab a piece of tape and tightly tape your weft yarn to the back of your loom. Flip it over and continue to thread your weft yarn through the notches of your loom, making sure that you only thread the subsequent notch. Continue weaving your weft yarn around the loom front to back until you have woven your yarn through all of the notches. When you're finished, flip it over, trim the excess yarn, and tightly tape your weft yarn onto the loom. Next, grab your ruler. With your ruler, we are going to create what's called a shed. Thread your ruler through your weft threads, alternating over, under, until you get to the other side of the loom. This is going to help separate your threads and make weaving easier. Slide your ruler through and center it, lining it up with the bottom edge of your coaster outline. Now you're ready to start weaving. Grab your first thread color and go ahead and thread your tapestry needle. Starting at one end of the bottom of your coaster, thread the needle through your weft yarn, alternating between threads over, under, until you reach the other side of your loom and your thread has gone through all of the weft threads. This colored thread is known as the warp thread. Pull your thread all the way through and leave a 3-inch tail. Then tamp your thread down so it's either against your shed stick if you're using it, or it's against the outline of your coaster. Now you can thread your needle back through your weft threads in the opposite direction, alternating your weft threads. If you went over, under before, this time you're going to go under, over with your warp thread. Pull your warp thread through carefully. Don't tighten all the way. We're going to create an arch shape with this second line of thread. This arch shape will ensure that the thread and the weaving doesn't get too tight. Grab a fork and gently use the fork to push your thread down against your first line of warp thread. Now, going in the opposite direction, thread your needle through the opposite weft threads, over, under, until you reach the other side of the loom. Again, don't pull it all the way tight. Create that arch shape, and then use your fork to tamp down the thread. And that's all there is to it. Continue to weave back and forth in this manner until you're ready to switch thread colors. When you want to switch thread, grab your scissors and trim off the end of your warp thread, leaving behind a 3-inch tail. Then go ahead and thread your next color of warp thread through your tapestry needle. Begin weaving on the same side of the loom that you ended on, going back through the loom in the opposite direction under the opposite weft threads as before. Pull your needle all the way through and then pull your warp thread all the way through, leaving behind that 3-inch tail. Tamp your thread down against the existing threads. I made a mistake on this. Can you see it? I accidentally went over 2 weft threads in a row. We don't want to skip any stitches like this, so if you find these sorts of mistakes in your weaving, make sure you pull it out and you start it over. Continue weaving like before, going from one direction to the other under alternating weft threads, making sure to make an arch with your thread and tamp it down with the fork. You can continue weaving and changing colors as often as you like. For this coaster, I chose to do 3 blocks of color. Just like before, when you're ready to switch colors, trim off your excess yarn, leaving behind a 3-inch tail, thread your tapestry needle with your next color, and continue weaving starting on the same side you left off on. Keep weaving until you reach the top of your coaster outline or you run out of thread. And that's it. You're finished weaving. You can remove your shed stick when you're all done. To remove your weaving from your loom, flip over your coaster and remove the tape from your weft threads. Now we're going to cut the weaving free from the loom. Grab your scissors and gently trim all your weft threads. Try to trim in the middle of the threads. Then flip your loom right side up and gently pull your weft threads loose from your loom notches. You want to be really gentle as you remove the weft threads from your loom, making sure you don't disturb your coaster, pull any of the weft threads loose, or unweave any of the warp threads. To finish off your coaster, you're going to tie together your weft threads. Starting at one end of your coaster, grab a pair of weft threads and tie a square knot. A square knot is simply 2 overhand knots that go in the opposite direction. Continue tying off pairs of weft threads, working your way across the coaster, and then turning it around and tying weft threads together using square knots on the other side of the coaster as well. Continue making square knots all along the edges of your coaster until all the weft threads have been tied off. Make sure that you don't jostle any of your warp threads loose in the process. Once you're finished tying all your weft threads, go ahead and straighten out your threads and grab your scissors. Trim your weft threads to create an even fringe along each side of your coaster. I made a 1-inch fringe, but you can choose to make your fringe as long or as short as you like. Next, take a look at your coaster and decide which side you want to be the front and which side you want to be the back. Once you've decided, lay your coaster back side up. Grab your tapestry needle and thread it with one of your loose warp threads. To secure the loose ends, we are going to sew them back into the tapestry. Pull your needle under stitches of the same color of your loose end. You want to make 3 or 4 stitches going in alternating directions to make sure that your coaster doesn't unravel. Once you're finished, trim the excess thread. Continue sewing in your loose ends until all your warp threads have been secured. And that's it! Your coaster is complete. Join us again in 2 months for another Creative Crafters class here at the Kent Free Library.